Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and we are back with more news and politics from around the world, this time for Tuesday, January the 28th, 2025. Now, let's hop into this. We start off with an article from ProPublica. Put them in trauma inside a key MAGA leader's plans for a new Trump agenda. The report highlights in trauma, a key Trump advisor says a Trump administration will seek to make civil servants miserable in their jobs. Military. In private speeches, he laid out plans to use armed forces to quell any domestic riots. 1776 and 1860. He likened the country's moment to those fractious periods in American history. Yeah, and you're the Redcoats and the Confederacy. A key ally to former President Donald Trump detailed plans to deploy the military in response to domestic unrest, defund the Environmental Protection Agency, and put career service civil servants in trauma in a series of previously unreported speeches that provide a sweeping vision for a second Trump term. So again, just evidence. These are evil people. It's just a fact. We see it every time they present something. You can see in how they present it. They aren't there to help people. In private speeches delivered in 2023 and 2024, Russell Vought, who served as Trump's Director of Office of Management and Budget, described his work crafting legal justification so the military leaders or government lawyers would not stop Trump's executive actions. He said the plans are a response to a Marxist takeover of the country, likened the moment to 1776 and 1860 when the country was at war or on the brink of it, and said the timing of Trump's candidacy was a gift from God. You're a fucking moron, Mr. Vought. One of the biggest morons. The whole Trump administration are nothing but absolute and complete monsters and morons. That's quite literally what it should be named. Marxists take over my ass. I wish there was one. This capitalist bullshit's causing a lot of people to suffer and go broke. Marxists take over my goddamn ass, motherfucker. From the liver, the deadly secrets behind breakthrough Alzheimer's drugs. Regulators approved controversial therapies amid excess deaths, questionable efficacy, and conflicts of interest. 6 years ago, Genevieve Lane was enjoying an active life in Florida when she began to forget her neighbor's name and where she put her keys. At 76, she might have shrugged off these lapses as mere signs of aging. But when she began to have moments of confusion and occasionally got lost while out walking, her housemate and longtime friend, Vicky Holmes, told her about a nearby research center. There, a doctor diagnosed her with early Alzheimer's disease and told her about a study testing a promising new drug. Lane enrolled, telling her daughter she wanted to have more time. Soon after she started receiving the twice monthly infusions, she and Holmes believed her memory was improving. In the beginning, we really thought it was working, said Holmes, but Lane was not on the drug. She was getting the placebo infusions of saline. When the trial concluded after 18 months, she began receiving the real drug, brand named Leqembi, as part of the study's extension phase. 6 weeks later, Lane was dead. Lane's family asked for an autopsy. I thought the drug killed her, Yvonne Battaglia, her daughter, told the Lever. I didn't trust the drug or the drug company, but the research firm hired by the drug maker and the hospital where she died both said they could not conduct an autopsy. So Battaglia and her family hired an independent neuropathologist themselves. The pathologist found Lane's brain littered with ruptured blood vessels, widespread inflammation in areas of dead cells. A second autopsy performed by Vanderbilt University Medical Center, where the family donated her brain, confirmed the cause of death: severe cerebral inflammation, likely due to Leqembi. I'll let y'all read the rest of that as I usually do, because I'm trying to get through a lot of these stories and stuff as quick as I can. From the Ask Historians subreddit, why is Auschwitz often seen as the face of the Holocaust when the straight death camps like Treblinka, Belzec, and Sobibor are often overlooked and even unknown to the general public? Not to mince words and not to try to say one place is worse than another, but when it comes to the true industrial killing that the Holocaust is known for, the true death camps are the purest form of it. Auschwitz served multiple purposes between being a prisoner of war camp, a work camp, a political prisoner camp, as well as an extermination camp. Prisoners sent there had at least a chance to survive, depending on who you were. But in Belzec or Treblinka, you'd show up, were immediately gassed and burned 99.9% of the time. There's a reason there aren't dozens of barracks or prisoner housing blocks like there are at Auschwitz. Pound for pound, or body for body, Treblinka killed almost as many people in its 15 months of operation as Auschwitz did in its 5-year run. I've sort of always wondered why Auschwitz was the poster boy for the Holocaust when there were comparatively deadlier places that existed. First Response says, your question alludes to exactly the two most fundamental answers. More people died at Auschwitz than at any other camp, over 1.1 million, even if Treblinka wasn't proportionally far behind, and at the same time more people survived Auschwitz than any other camp. It is the largest full death camp in scale, but also included a massive labor camp. Regardless of the proportional death rate, the largest camp is clearly the front runner to be the most famous, and the higher number of survivors means that more survivor accounts of the camps will come from Auschwitz-Birkenau, and it is those that enter the public consciousness most vividly. Though I would dispute the other 5 main death camps: Treblinka, Sobibor, Majdanek, Belzec, and Chelmno. Treblinka, in particular, weren't also extremely famous. Most of those, as well as Dachau and Bergen-Belsen, not to mention ghettos like those of Warsaw, Krakow, and possibly Theresienstadt, are well known enough to be knowledge expected from the educated in Western countries, in the sense that it would not be unusual for a highbrow publication to refer to them without feeling the need to explain what they are. Treblinka is especially notorious for its brutality, and itself gets used figuratively on occasion. But yes, Auschwitz in particular got extra attention in the general culture, and this can also be traced to the efforts of actual survivors. Among the earliest was Witold Pilecki, a Polish resistance officer, oddly enough not Jewish, who deliberately entered the camp and managed to escape with the help of his resistance network to report on what was happening there to the world. This did not get the attention it deserved, but has since become better known. Elie Wiesel was at Auschwitz, as was Primo Levi. Both became exceptionally famous after the war and wrote detailed and widely read accounts. Art Spiegelman wrote May's 1977, one of the most well-known Holocaust books in many children's introduction to the subject, based on, in large part, on his parents' experiences at Auschwitz. Hugo Gryn, a prominent rabbi and broadcaster in the UK, spoke and wrote about his own experiences there. In Austria, Jean Amory's At the Mind's Limits, Contemplations by a Survivor on Auschwitz and Its Realities, 1966, and in France, Charlotte Delbau's Auschwitz and After, 1985, also contributed to this. Auschwitz was the only full-blown death camp briefly shown in 1993, Schindler's List, possibly the most famous Holocaust film of all, though by this stage Auschwitz had long been the default camp in public memory. Works of fiction like 1979's Sophie's Choice had already been using Auschwitz as their backdrop. To the list, we could even add an increasingly popular Catholic saint, Maximilian Kolbe, a priest who died on behalf of another inmate there. But above all, the Holocaust survivors that people have since actually met and had experience of the camps were disproportionately more likely to have been there. Not only did far more die there, but the fact it was a combined labor and death camp meant that even higher proportion of survivors to remember stories of it. Similar is true to a lesser extent of people's families who died, though can be inflated relative to the other camps, and indeed the millions who didn't die at a camp at all but were shot in village squares or woods or gassed in trucks or in some other way. On the other side, Rudolf Höss, the most important commandant of Auschwitz, who introduced the use of Zyklon B there, was captured by British soldiers led by a German Jewish refugee in unusual circumstances, and had a prominent trial and execution in Poland. Even more prominently, Joseph Mengele was at Auschwitz. While not the only Nazi doctor to engage in horrific medical experiments, he was by far the most brutally prolific, and his escape to Brazil and evasion of justice added an extra level of infamy to the point he is on the short list of the most famous Nazis overall. We'll go ahead and end there because that is a long post. But we get a response from someone involved with who knows about left-wing European terrorism. Interestingly, in West Germany in the 60s and much of the 70s, Auschwitz was also the catch-all term used by many Germans to describe the crimes of the Nazis against the Jewish people. On June 6, 1967, a young pacifist student named Benno Ohnesorg was killed in police custody during a police-caused riot in Berlin. Later that night, at the local SDS headquarters, a student group with similar goals as the American Students for a Democratic Society, but fully unrelated, a young woman named Gudrun Inslen stood up and screamed, "They are the Auschwitz generation. They only understand violence, and we should meet violence with violence." She later co-founded the Red Army faction, also called the Baader-Meinhof Gang, and helped wage a campaign of terror against the West German state. When did the term Holocaust come into much more widespread usage in Germany? Well, you can trace it very clearly to the spring of 1979 when the American miniseries Holocaust was broadcast on German TV. Despite having top-tier talent like Meryl Streep, James Woods, and Michael Moriarty, it is, well, not good. Elie Wiesel, who was a prisoner at Auschwitz, said it was untrue, offensive, cheap. As a TV production, the film is an insult to those who perished and to those who survived. But we'll end that there, yeah. And they go on to different things. Different responses and stuff, so yeah. So, some views on how Auschwitz became the big name when it came to the Holocaust and concentration camps. Which, yeah. I mean, if you're going to have more people who have accounts they can talk about of it, whereas places like Treblinka and Belzec and Sobibor were just people sent there to be executed, it's going to be the one that has more survivors is going to be the one more often mentioned. So yeah. But also from Ask Historian subreddit, did Nazi Germany specifically target queer or trans people? First responses from a moderator who specializes with dueling, modern warfare, and small arms. Commie Space Invader has several past answers. I would point to on the treatment of LGBTQ people under the Nazi regime, and then they list a number of links here. I guess there are other subreddits, yeah, in the Ask Historians subreddit. Links to other entries in the Ask Historians subreddit. But additionally, this older response from user KugelThang52 should be of interest too. As noted in several of the responses, though, this is a topic which has not received the treatment it deserves in scholarship until recently. But has started to finally get more focus, so there is definitely a lot more to say, and I would expect a fair bit published merely in the few years since those responses were written. Thank you. You provided a lot of context I didn't have. I need to look into researching this more, but that's all there is on that. Next, we have some links from Data is Beautiful. This link is the 2025 U.S. minimum wage by state. So yeah, your lighter colors are the minimum federal wage, $7.25, and the darker you go, the better it gets. So, of course, a lot of your South is the very minimum wage. Your Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, and then Indiana, Wisconsin, North Dakota, Wyoming, Idaho, Utah, and New Hampshire, Pennsylvania. They are all $7.25 an hour. When we know if wages had kept up from about 1970 till today, it would be over $20. That minimum wage would be. So yeah, that's how much Americans are getting cheated. But anyway, let's look at the next levels up. Let's see. We have states like West Virginia at $8.75. So it's $1.50 over the federal minimum. And then you have states like Michigan at $10.56 an hour, Ohio at $10.70 an hour, South Dakota at $11.50 an hour. Let's see. Nevada and New Mexico at $12 an hour. Virginia at $12.41 an hour. Then Florida at $13 an hour. Nebraska at $13.50 an hour. Missouri, $13.75 an hour. But we're starting to reach the heights of what we have available. Then we have a number of states in the $14 range. Hawaii's $14. I forgot Alaska at $11.91, so I should have mentioned it. But yeah. But anyway, Hawaii $14 an hour. Vermont, 1401 an hour. Maine, 1465 an hour. Arizona, 1470 an hour. Yeah, Arizona and Oregon are both at 1470. Colorado is at 1481 an hour. Next, we have Massachusetts and Rhode Island at $15 an hour. Delaware and Maryland at $15 an hour. New Jersey at $15.49 an hour. New York at $15.50 an hour. Illinois is $15 an hour. I forgot to mention it. And now we start to hit the tippy top here. Connecticut is $16.35 an hour. California at $16.50 an hour. And the highest state minimum wage in the U.S., Washington, at $16.66 an hour. So yeah, we have it from as small as $7.25 to as much as $16.66 an hour. So you can be $7.25 or you can be well over double. Depending where you live for minimum wage. Which, like I said, if it kept up from around like 1970, it would be over $20 now. And this data chart, visualizing the world's nuclear arsenal in 2024. The state of the global nuclear arsenal as of 2024. North Korea, around 50, which are reserve. Israel, 90. Pakistan, 170. India, 172. And these two right here, Pakistan, India, present a bit of an issue because they're neighbors who border each other, but also have serious cooperation and trust issues with each other. And it's often worried they may break out in some kind of nuclear war amongst themselves. Next up, we have the UK with 225. You have about a little over half being deployed strategic, which are deployed on intercontinental missiles and at heavier bomber bases. And then you have a little under half being reserve, which the previous countries were all reserve. Warheads and storage, and not deployed on launchers. Now, next is France at 290, with the great majority of them being deployed strategic, with a handful in reserve. Then we have China with a little bit being deployed strategic, but the great majority in reserve at 500. And then you have the two former nuclear superpowers. The U.S. at number 2 It's got them deployed strategic, some deployed non-strategic, which is deployed on bases with operational short-range delivery systems, a number in reserve, and a number in being retired, for a total of 5,044. The retired are warheads in queue for dismantlement. And of course, Russia's at the top with a little over the amount the U.S. has for deployed strategic. They have no deployed non-strategic. They have a good portion that's reserve. And then they have some that are retired as well for a total of 5,580. So yeah, they've got about 536 more than we do. Which, if you look at the other countries, that's just by the advantage they have over the U.S. is more than any other country in there except the U.S. So yeah, you could be looking at nuclear Armageddon if these two go into a war that uses nuclear warheads. Now, let's look at some pictures from the history porn subreddit. I love this subreddit. World War I German officers holding French clubs, Grabencul, France, in 1915. Witness account of Private John Kirkham serving in the 20th Battalion Manchester Regiment in 1916, describing an encounter with a German soldier during a trench raid. It sank deep into his forehead. In the scuffle, his helmet flew off, and I saw that his bald-headed old... I saw... What I saw was a bald-headed old man. I have never forgotten that bald head, and I don't suppose I ever will, poor devil. Yeah, remember, a lot of your World War I battles were trench warfare. They dig the trenches, stay hidden in there, lean over to shoot, stay in there, and then they do a charge. And unfortunately, one of the big uses during World War I was different kinds of gas. Yeah. But in this case, we're talking about a private, and he talks about his encounter with a German soldier during a trench raid. And in the image, they're showing everybody holding trench clubs. So I want you to think about the damage these things could do, because this is what he's talking about. Yeah, you take one of these clubs, which is just like a baton or club, basic, but it's also got spikes and razors and different things. Looks like it's sticking out from it. Yeah. Next image, Andres Pico, shown in 1850 in traditional vaquero Californio attire, served as a California state senator and adjutant general of California. So yeah, remember, 1850, this is shortly after the Mexican-American War. If I'm remembering my time periods correctly, Mexican-American, yeah. 1846 to 1848. almost a complete 2 years. So this is in 1850. So this guy's like one of California's first senators for what would become the state of California. I believe at that point it was still just a territory. Let me look this up here. Blah blah blah. No, California was a state when September 9th, 1850. So yeah, it didn't take it long to become a state. So yeah, after the U.S. won the Mexican-American War, we took over basically from Texas out to California with the almost modern border of Mexico and the U.S. There was the Gadsden Purchase later on, but yeah. But yeah, it didn't take long for California to become its own state. I mean, literally, like I said, it ended in 1848 and it became a state in 1850. So, but yeah, this was one of the first California state senators, Andres Pico. And our final image here, Newsboys taking a cigarette break. St. Louis, Missouri, 1910. The photo is by Louis Wicks Hine for the National Child Labor Committee. Yeah. Just these young 8, 9, 10-year-old boys puffing away at a cigarette. And it was during this era that people were like, maybe we should have child labor laws. Because much as capitalists today like to take advantage of foreign workers, capitalists back then took advantage of younger people as work. Yeah. They'll always try to find ways to make an extra buck. Now let's look at some news. The first article from Reuters. At least 3 U.S. lawmakers said on Tuesday healthcare providers were blocked from the Medicaid payment portal after the Trump administration announced a federal funding pause, even as the White House said the program was exempted. White House spokesperson Carolyn Leavitt said the White House was aware of the Medicaid program's online portal outage and said it would be back online soon. She said no payments had been affected. But yeah, states say Medicaid across cut or access cut. White House says no payments are disrupted. But yeah, we'll be looking at this in several articles because this has been a big story today. Next article we're going to look at from Reuters. Trump ordered a set to halt supply of HIV malaria drugs to poor countries, resources say. The logo of USAID is seen at a community kitchen set up by them in the World Food Program in Cúcuta, Colombia. But yeah, halting supply of HIV malaria drugs to poor countries. From WTTW Window to the World PBS affiliate in Chicago, Illinois.
Closed captioning for this program is brought to you by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, serving Chicago as a personal injury law firm.
I don't
since
care.
1994.
I don't want you to play. Shut up, hush, please. I'm just trying to read. Illinois, other states temporarily lost access to Medicaid portal amid funding freeze. Federal funding will temporarily keep flowing due to a court order, but confusion bordering on panic remains over a directive from President Donald Trump's budget office that seeks to suddenly halt a wide spectrum of federal grants. The intent here is to disrupt, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker said. The intention here is to make cuts, and it will affect people all across our state. Yeah. As you find out, he froze funding for a lot of things, which in and of itself is questionable if he can even really do. But the things he was able to freeze have been seriously hurt, and the majority of them are all things that help average people. From the BBC, White House defends freezing funds as reasonable while Democrats express extreme alarm, which you should. Anytime a president tries to act like a dictator and freeze funds for regular people in programs that help regular people, yeah. From The Guardian, notorious U.S. chemical plant polluting water with toxic PFAS, lawsuit claims. Complaint says Chemours factory, dramatized in Hollywood movie Dark Waters, continues to pollute West Virginia River. Not surprised. From the political discussion subreddit, do you think this new pause on governmental spending for grants and financial aid is another example of Trump weaponizing his power? Starting later today, hundreds of billions, maybe trillions of dollars earmarked for various programs already approved by Congress throughout the country will be halted for review. Will Trump only turn the faucet back on for the programs that meet his approval? How is this even legal, since many of the grants have already been approved by Congress? This is a test. He's doing this to see how Congress responds to him blatantly usurping control of federal funds. He's breaking laws and violating the Constitution, and now he's going to sit back and see if anybody has the temerity to do anything about it. It's also chaff to clog up the gears of Congress so they can address all the other illegal things he's doing. Brought to you by the same people who realized if you attract enough bad press, people's subconscious tendency to doubt the veracity of scenarios that stray too far outside the realm of normalcy will cause them to become desensitized to the bad press and shift the Overton window on presidential behavior. Yeah, essentially, he's doing so much hideous and horrendous shit that what would have seemed like this is not decent a little while back is now, meh, common stuff. Listen to the Daily yesterday when they talked about Stephen Miller's plan to flood the zone. It was an interesting bit for this very idea. Get everyone all riled up on one thing or another while they test the waters on legality and pushing extremes into media. So yeah, I'll let you read the rest, but yeah, it's interesting because it brings up a lot that's going on with Trump. He's literally violating the Constitution the way he sexually assaulted many women. Now, from The Guardian, Bernie Sanders condemns Trump for federal loans and grants the phrase, "He is not a king," or condemns Trump for his federal loans and grant freeze. He is not a king. Senator announces order to pause all funding and says it'll have devastating impact on most vulnerable people in the U.S. Yep, and Trump and his buddies don't give a fuck about the average person. I've told you all this over and over and over. From Quartz, Trump Medicaid freeze seems to lock 72 million Americans out of their health insurance. Lawmakers across the country have confirmed that their states' Medicaid payment systems have been shut off. From The Hill, Democrats question the legality of Trump's freeze on federal grants. From CBS News, White House blames the outage on these funds for locking out Medicaid Head Start health centers from blames outage. So it blames an outage for locking these groups out. Medicaid, Head Start, and what was the other program? Health centers. Sure. Multiple state Medicaid programs reported late Tuesday that they have been able to resume accessing their payment systems after the nationwide lockout. The interruption had sparked outcry from state governments, nonprofits, and lawmakers in the wake of Trump's administration move to freeze spending across the federal government. After legal challenges were filed against the funding freeze, a federal judge issued a stay temporarily halting the move until she can hear arguments in the case. Yeah, it's funding that's froze from programs like Medicaid, Head Start, number of different health centers, Meals on Wheels, which provide hot meals to seniors. You know, stuff like this. Like I said, stuff to help average people. And you have to ask, why? Why would people vote for this? From The Guardian, Trump firing government watchdogs is a clear violation of law, says Adam Schiff. U.S. Senator adds to chorus of criticism of President, who fired inspectors at departments including State and Defense. Don't care for Schiff, but yeah, what Trump's doing is blatantly illegal, wrong, and unconstitutional. So yeah. From Common Dreams. No, the U.S. military did not enter California where they turned on the water. The federal government restarted federal water pumps after they were offline for maintenance for 3 days, the state's water agency clarified in response to Trump's lie. State water supplies in Southern California remain plentiful. Yeah, you gotta push back when this little lying bastard start spewing the bullshit when he opens his lips. From Axios, Trump's funding freeze temporarily halted by federal judge. Also from Axios, I don't want this No, I don't want it. Reload. Trump fires acting labor board chair in legally dubious move. So yeah, Trump fired the acting chair of the National Labor Relations Board, Democrat Gwen Wilcox, late Monday night. He also fired the general counsel of the labor board, Jennifer Abruzzo, a strong advocate for unionization. See, he's doing everything that benefits the already wealthy. He does not care about the average person. From SciPost. Why being vegetarian might hurt your chances on dating apps. A study published in the Social Psychological Bulletin reveals that individuals following a vegetarian diet may be viewed as less attractive dating partners by meat eaters, particularly in Poland, a country with a strong meat-eating tradition. Participants in the study, who were heterosexual meat eaters, rated dating profiles of vegetarians less favorably than profiles with no mention of hereditary habits. Also from SciPost, young women's mixed feelings about sex stem from conflicting social norms. A set of interviews with young women in the U.S. revealed that their mixed feelings towards sex stem from conflicting social norms. Participating women expressed a desire to have sex with their partners, guided by social norms that valorized such encounters, but they were also influenced by coexisting norms that stigmatize sexual activity. Paper was published in Sexualities. Yeah. From Hindustan Times. China's artificial sun burns for 1,000+ seconds. Creates record in fusion research. So yeah, China's working on a artificial sun and fusion technology. Here in America, we've got a dictator wannabe trying to take rights away from people. Shows how things work. From Bloomberg, Danish leader rallies European support in Greenland standoff. Frederiksen is trying to downplay Trump's aggressive rhetoric. She's touring Berlin, Paris, and Brussels to fine-tune strategy. So, yeah, she's in Germany, France, and Belgium, looking for allies to help push back on Trump's absolute stupid insanity. From Bloomberg, Canada's Freeland calls for summit of nations targeted by Trump. Ex-finance minister running for prime minister details her Trump strategy. Mexico, Denmark, Panama, and the European Union should respond jointly, she says. Like I said, he's already making us a frickin' pariah on the world stage. It's not making America strong. It's making us look like a bunch of dumb assholes. From Reuters. Poland and Canada signed nuclear power cooperation agreement. Poland planning to build the first nuclear power plant. Tusk says cooperation on small nuclear reactors is important too. Says Poland needs more energy if it is to build big data centers. So yeah. From PC Mag. Trump to tariff chips made in Taiwan targeting TSMC. The tariffs could ensnare cutting-edge smartphone and PC-related chips for Apple, AMD, and Nvidia if enacted. But Trump is betting his plan will bring more chip production to the U.S. I wouldn't bet on it. All it will guarantee is you're going to make things more expensive for the people. Trump is preparing to place tariffs beyond Chinese assembled electronics to computer chips made in Taiwan, warning the tariffs could reach as high as 100%. Get ready for your electronic stuff to be about 3, 4, 5 times higher. In particular, in the very near future, we're going to be placing tariffs on foreign production of computer chips, semiconductors, and pharmaceuticals to return production of these essential goods to the U.S., Trump said in a speech to Republicans on Monday. Why is he so stupid? Why did so many people vote for this stupid man? From Axios. Scoop. U.S. sending dozens of Patriot missiles from Israel to Ukraine. The U.S. military transferred around 90 Patriot air defense interceptors from storage in Israel to Poland this week in order to deliver them to Ukraine, 3 sources with knowledge of the operation tell Axios. Getting more Patriot missiles to Ukraine has been a top priority for the Pentagon to help Kiev defend against Russia's attacks on its critical infrastructure. From Reuters. A poll says 85% of Greenlanders do not want to be part of the U.S. and oppose joining the U.S. Trump claims Greenland is vital to U.S. security, which it is not. Denmark plans a $2.04 billion Arctic military boost. Again, let's hear it for dumbass Donnie. Thank you, Donnie. Now, let's watch some videos here. Carolyn Kennedy calls out her own brother for being a hypocrite and reveals that he got his own kids vaccinated.
Dear Senators, throughout the past year, people have asked for my thoughts about my cousin Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and his presidential campaign. I did not comment, not only because I was serving in a government position as United States Ambassador to Australia, but because I have never wanted to speak publicly about my family members and their challenges. We are a close generation of 28 cousins who have been through a lot together. We know how hard it's been, and we are all.
But yeah, where they're doing the Senate hearings to get the cabinet members confirmed, this is likely part of what she's offered to Congress. But yeah, 6 minutes 19 seconds. I'll let you all watch the rest of it on your own. I just wanted to show a little bit of it here. Next video, the doomsday clock moved forward to 89 seconds to midnight.
Thank you all for being here today. It is the determination of the Science and Security Board of the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists that the world has not made sufficient progress on existential risks threatening all of humanity. We thus move the clock forward. In setting the clock closer to midnight, we send a stark signal. Because the world is already perilously close to the precipice, any move towards midnight should be taken as an indication of extreme danger and an unmistakable warning. Every second of delay in reversing course increases the probability of global disaster. It is now 89 seconds to midnight. This is the closest the world has ever been to midnight.
Just under a minute and a half. A minute and a half. 90 seconds is a minute and a half. We're at 89 seconds. So yeah. They're saying the likelihood for a apocalyptic nuclear war is very possible. Which honestly is shameful. But, final video here. A woman publicly expresses her hateful views with pride, while callously mocking the families devastated by current immigration policies. So she's taking pride in being an asshole and a Republican. So yeah, let's watch this.
I don't give two shits that families are being separated if somebody's getting deported. I actually find it hilarious. It gives me a great deal of comfort. I have no sympathy that your child might grow up without a father because he got sent back to Mexico or whatever. I mean, y'all are welcome to go with him. Don't forget that's an option. That's a choice that you're making, right? I don't have any sympathy for your little videos that you're making on social media with all the tears. I don't give a shit. I'm actually fucking laughing at you that you're sitting there crying for attention. Okay. I find you guys to be subhumans. All right. Now, while you're sitting there judging me because I don't care that families are going to be separated from each other, I'd invite you to recall that hundreds of J6ers were separated from their families for something that equates to little more than a trespassing
Oh,
charge.
bullshit, you little whiny
Yeah.
bitch ass
Yeah.
motherfucker. They fucking committed violence, you dumb bitch. God damn stupid ass motherfuckers like to run their mouth and talk shit when, again, they're stupid ass motherfuckers. I hear all this stupid shit all the time. I see it all the time. And it drives me batty that so many people are so fucking stupid. They couldn't get their own head out of their own ass if it got stuck up there. And knowing idiots like this, despite the fact that such dimensions to work together would be near impossible considering the size of the ass and the size of the human head, they still would find some way to do it because that's who they are. Morons! Anyway, we'll go ahead and end this episode there. As always, educate thyself, think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll be putting my links and sources in the description box below the video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.